Hello, my name is Fenax. How are you, my darling? Would you like to go out to dinner sometime? What the hell's up with this hat? It's like a bird cage on top of a hat. Like they're trying to keep the hat from escaping. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm the Clam Boss. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be talking about the Sacred Order, going over their character design. Character design is something that's been near and dear to my heart my entire life. I've been doing it as a hobby, and so I love talking about it and sharing that with you guys. If this is up your alley, please subscribe to my channel. That would help me out a lot. But let's get into it. Now, I'm not going to go over all of the commons and uncommons and rares and epics at length. What I'm going to do is just go over the ones that jump out at me. For commons, I'm only going to cover one really quickly just to show you what kind of detail they put into their common characters. Legendary characters of a lot of games don't look half this good. The chainmail, even the detail in the chainmail, instead of making it all uniform, they make sure it's beat up. They make sure it looks like she's been in battle. This fabric, the wrinkles, and this type of fabric, they aren't using it on a lot of characters, so it's not like they just took it from this legendary character, slapped it on her. It's actually, made specifically for this champion, or maybe just a couple. So I won't cover her much. And look at her face too. I mean, that's legitimately a well done, CG graphic face. So I do have to say, the details, she's still striking, even though she's a common character and you're just going to be throwing her away. Next, let's take a look at Armiger. He's pretty much everybody's favorite uncommon, or at least most people's favorite uncommon, just because he's so good in this game. But he's got this kind of unique look to him. I wouldn't say unique because, necked is the same. But he's got, I guess, unique to other games in the fact that even though you can't see his eyes, even though you can't see his face, he still has kind of an attitude to him. I almost feel like a Snake Eyes-esque, from G.I. Joe, the way that his, helmet covers everything. I don't know if they ever expected him to be this beloved champion that he is, but take a look at him as an uncommon champion. He's really cool. I wouldn't have been mad to have pulled him in most games, and he was a legendary character. I wouldn't have been mad about that. So nothing too specific to point out other than if you look at the shield, the way that like the paint is worn off of it is really realistic to what you would have seen in battle. I would say there's one other vigilante. I would have liked to have seen even an epic with the look of this character. I liked having that metal, knight's mask or whatever underneath his turban. I think that's really cool. Again, kind of a neat, kind of low level grunt shield, but I thought he had a really kind of cool look to him. I would say the first rare to point out would be Harrier. You look at the detail of his hair. I mean, he is Harrier, right? So he's pretty hairy. But you look at that, you look at the leather. He's a rare champion. I know he's a void rare, but he's a rare champion. And they put a ton of work into the leather, the different layers of leather, the buckles, the straps, all over, the embossing. Nobody would have missed this, embossed logo on the front of his leather and been like, hey, this rare champion needs more detail on his leather. Nobody would have noticed that, but the fact that it's there adds depth to the character. The embossing on the metal of this crossbow, he's just, incredible for what they were going for, which was kind of a nobleman, who's maybe been called to war. So that's Harrier, Ash's least favorite character in the game. Next, I'd say Mother Superior. I've always liked the look of her. I think it's the black and gold mixed with the white. Granted, I did go to a high school where black and gold were the colors, so maybe that's why. The only thing I probably would have left out is the blue. I don't feel that was needed in this garment. But, maybe there's a reason for that. A lot of this was obviously based on Roman Catholic design. Even though I'm sure they aren't Roman Catholic in any way in this game, they still took inspiration from somewhere, and I think that's what they did. So she's got this habit on on her head. The kind of turtleneck going up and leading up to it. It probably goes up the full skull cap, more than likely. Obviously, they don't need the little cleavage hole there. You know, a nun or whatever she is probably wouldn't have had that in real life. But, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of 13-year-olds who play this game. So I love her boots, the gold metal boots. You're going to find this in a lot of these characters that they have heels. Obviously, nobody in battle would ever actually have heels. But, you know, this is fantasy. It's not real, so we can go with it. And I love her staff. This cross on the end of the staff. I don't know. I really like that a lot. She's got a cool look to her. So this is Templar. He's one of the characters you get automatically earlier in the game, or at least from farming. And, you know, he really kind of drew me in. I thought he had a neat look to him. Even though you can't see his eyes, these slits in the eyes kind of act as, you know, the window to his soul, I guess. I really liked these horns with the ball on top. So he's kind of one of the early exposures a lot of us got to the characters in this game, and I thought they did a good job with him. He's a rare. They didn't make him too crazy over the top, but, you know, it was enough to be like, hey, this guy's pretty cool. I'd like to use him. I'd like to build him if I could. Also, I really like the color scheme that they went with. I'm going with this kind of maroon leather. I'm not sure why this leather up here didn't match it, but that maroon plus the blue and the black, so that maroon plus the white and the black actually makes for a really cool kind of color scheme. So I like that a lot. Castigator's a newer champion, and you can kind of tell they put a little more detail into him. He's got these kind of broad shoulder pads that really kind of increase his stature. Obviously, he's a lot smaller underneath all of that. His mask has kind of a cool look to it. You can actually see his eyes through it, so you know there's a person behind there. His hair either pops through the top here, kind of in like probably like a Japanese style, you know, something that you'd expect to have almost seen in the Shadowkin. Maybe they moved this champion out of there. They were like, he doesn't look Shadowkin enough. Let's put him in the Sacred Order. Or this could be horsehair or something like that. I believe that was used back in the day. So I like this, you know, fist holding what looks like maybe a scroll or something like that on his chest. Probably shows what kind of order he came out of, what he's in charge of. A lot of them have these books here. They're probably to represent, you know, whatever their canon is, whatever their religious book is for this, or spiritual book is for this faction. And who do they worship? I get the feeling it's Arbiter. I do believe she's supposed to be a god of some kind. But we've got a few people in this order that I think could be gods as well. But I did see later. And of course, you can't talk about Castigator without talking about his weapon. That looks like it would hurt a lot. It definitely kind of doubles as both a weapon of force, but also something that could be used ritualistically. It's got this little flame in here. These are the little details that I just love. That flame is, you can tell it's lighting up the hair behind his helmet there in a way that is really cool. When he moves it away, the light goes away. When he brings it back, so that's an active source of light. I think that's a great touch. Also, the size of that light isn't enough that's like wowing you, but once you notice it, you're like, wow, this is really cool. I like that a lot. I won't go into depth with Purgator, but I do like his look. I think he's got a cool helmet, and these shoulder pads with the spikes, I like those a lot. All right, we have to talk about the starter champ, Aethel. She's really cool. I really like this spear or pike that she has here. I like the, you know, shape of the head of it here, and then you see that same shape again on her shield. So, you know, it was probably something fairly important for whatever her status was in this order. I love the blue fabric, and the detail they have in that is pretty incredible. Not only for the wrinkles and stuff, but you can actually see the texture of the fabric. Her entire, you know, leg armor leading down to the boots. I really like the leather boots, but this leg armor and stuff, it's very understated. but once you look at and you see the detail, you're like, this really works. A good artist knows when not to go too over the top, too bold, and the person who designed this character really understood that. Even these orange, again, it's the end of her spear. That symbol is really cool. It really pops on that blue, and they didn't overdo it. They didn't say, oh, because we added this orange here, we've got to add orange throughout her entire outfit. So, and then here on her shoulders, you can see somebody, doing like a ritual or holding their sword. I can't tell exactly what. I'd love to get closer. But it really adds this kind of element that she's here for a purpose, and they have a cause. They have this spiritual cause that they're here to fight for. They've done a great job with that. She's got kind of this cool butch look, this short hair, like she's here for battle, and she could really kick some ass. So I like her a lot. Moving on to the epics, you're going to notice a step up in the quality of these champions. You could kind of go through almost all of these, but I'm going to stick to the ones that pop out the most to me and the ones that I felt really artistically they did a great job on. So the first one is Godseeker Aniri. I love everything about her design. She's got a little bit of age to her. She's got this incredible sword. And you'll see this blue light come through with a few characters. So I believe she's probably part of, Cardinal's core, right? Cardinal's group, or Glissia's. You see that same blue flame. Also, if you take a look, she's got this like handprint on her face, as if maybe a demon reached out and burned her face. And I believe it kind of affects, maybe it doesn't affect her eyes, but I really think that scar is cool. I'm not the type of person who thinks that if there's a scar on a character, it makes them less attractive. I think that the human form is there, and then what we do through life just shapes it and affects it in natural ways. So I think the scar is really cool on her. The best part of her is this shield. I think that's Cardinal, which is why I think she's probably in his core. She's probably like the right-hand woman of Cardinal. Could you imagine a cooler shield than this? The detail of being able to see between his sword and the shield and actually see the background behind it as you move. I think I never would have even thought to do something like that. He's got, his wings, his look. He's got his kind of halo behind his head. And I don't know. Who would have imagined you could come up with this cool of a shield? She's got, I don't think most people notice this, but a helmet that's very similar to Armiger's on her back here, which makes me think Armiger probably is somebody that fights, below her, like he's one of her warriors. All of these details are really, really cool. And then these wings are great. I don't know what's written on here. I can't quite tell. But as far as I know, it could be Latin or something like that. But I love these wings that come out. They look very ornamental, and I don't see any like reality to the wings. So it's very possible that she's like, hey, Cardinal, I'm here to serve you. So I have these ceremonial wings on where you have real wings. So she's, I don't know, fantastic. The fabric and this gold thread that is used, and you can tell it's like a gold thread woven through, I don't know, it's just perfectly done. She's so cool. She's one of my favorite champions in the game. Inquisitor Chamel. He looks like he is a vampire hunter, and this leather outfit, kind of like almost noble, but also like he walks the streets at night hunting vampires. It's very, very cool. He's holding these rosaries in his hands, so you can tell he's working on behalf of this spiritual group. I don't know, obviously they're in the Sacred Order, but my guess is the vampire hunter ones they might be more like an off sect, like somebody who works for this group, but not necessarily like in direct chain of command. He's got this writing on his sleeves and these symbols. You know, maybe they're to ward off the vampires. But if you look closely at the leather, the way that this leather has worn from shiny black to this matte gray is so realistic. It's like what really happens to leather when it's really gotten wet a lot, when it's really gotten, you know, beat up and used, you know. So it's still useful. He's still getting use out of it, but it doesn't look brand new anymore. They do that better in this game than anybody I've ever seen before. On the front of his crossbow, also that same like Latin or whatever that is, written across there as well. And the other thing I'd like to point out, you have these crossbows in the game, you would expect them to all be the same crossbow. Who's going to notice that they went with different crossbows for each of these characters? But when they went to design these characters, they actually designed a new crossbow for them. I believe they do that with like all the characters, or nearly all the characters. I don't know if any other game would have done that. I would also like to just add that I think he was the first person of color added into the game after the initial launch, where initially there were some like uncommon champions that, you know, could have represented like African American or something like that. But then any new characters that were coming in, and granted, a lot of them are either, you know, monsters, so they have no race, or they're, you know, completely enclosed behind armor, so you can't tell what race they are. But I was glad they're adding some diversity to the game, and they did a great job with Inquisitor Chamel. So you can tell he's got a great story behind him. I'd love to know what that story is. I hope they come out with some real lore behind all of this, or like a real storyline to go along with the game, much deeper than what they have right now. And we'll see. I know there's some kind of comic book. I don't know. I haven't read it. I probably should, since I'm interested in that sort of thing. So here's Cardinal. There's a few women that kind of look like her. I really liked her. She's Little Red Riding Hood. The red really pops along the black here. She's very striking in her looks. I love her boots, the way this armor comes down to it. And again, you know, a lot of them do have that kind of metal down to the knee, and then the boots below it, but they're all different. They did them in different ways. They're not the same leg irons used from champion to champion. And within, you know, the Sacred Order faction, nobody would have argued with that. I mean, they all come from the same army, right? It would have been totally understandable for them to say these were mass produced for this army, but they didn't take that kind of cheap way out. They go in for all the details, and I think that's just incredible. And I love this long sword. She looks just completely badass holding it. Everybody loves Cardinal. She's mainly known for her revive skill, but at the same time, that giant sword coming at you would be pretty badass. All right, and then you have the Pope, Deacon Armstrong. Obviously, they didn't go with the name Pope. They went with the Deacon. Maybe people would get less offended, but to me, I don't know. He looks like the Pope to me. He is like if the Pope came into battle. He's ready to fight. I love these shoulder shields, I guess you could call them, with the stars on them. Those look fantastic. His mace is really cool. I think it's great that he doesn't have the big staff that you'd expect him to have, but he has this mace. Like, no, I'm here to just bash heads. That's what I'm here for. So I like him a lot. This shield again is great. Yeah, put it on their back. You know, it was around this time they were realizing that we're seeing the back of these champions more often than their front. So let's make sure that the back of the champions is as appealing as possible. I think Gerptuck was the first one I really noticed them do it with, and they did a fantastic job with him. But within this faction, Deacon Armstrong, you know, and of course his headdress is just pretty incredible, the way they did it. And, you know, that regal face, the white beard, they did a fantastic job with that as well. And of course tied in the Sacred Order emblem as well. They do that with some of the champs, but not all of them. So that's Deacon Armstrong. Hello, my name is Fenax. How are you, my darling? Would you like to go out to dinner sometime? So you have Fenax, who is, other people call him Phoenix, but I don't know. With the A in there, I just have to call him Fenax. Obviously, he looks like a Lothario, like, I guess kind of like, Zorro, or, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank on some of the other, famous Lotharios throughout time, but, he's got the chest hair popping through. I assume he's French. He could be Italian or something. He's got the necklace, just kind of dangling in the middle of his bare chest. He's got this flower embroidered onto the leather. Really cool. I don't get the elbow pads. Did they put them on backwards, or like they're pointing in the wrong direction? Maybe they're speakers so that he can play romantic music when he's courting these women. That's got to be what it is, right? He's just got like elbow speakers. Anyway, I don't know, they did a great job. They put a lot of character into his face. The hair on these champions is just incredible. When they move around, everything seems to move along with it. They did a great job. I won't get into too much more detail other than these sleeves, this cloth fabric underneath his armor really looks like something he would wear in his everyday life, and here it is underneath his armor. I don't think they use this fabric anywhere else in the game, and they put so much time into it. It looks like it shines. It's got flow to it. It looks kind of like fire. I don't know. They did a fantastic job with that. Even the wrinkles, on his face, just to show, hey, he's been around a bit. He's not a young buck, but he's still, he still takes down the ladies. Mordecai. You could picture this in, a movie like the Da Vinci Code or something like that. Like, this is somebody in the background of, the religion. They're never going to show their faces to the public, but they're back there, whispering in almost like a snake-like tongue to, convince people what to do. And here they are, burned over most of their body and wrapped up, hiding their faces behind, this hood. There's so much story there. There's so much I want to know. They're asking me, to stay tuned until they're going to eventually tell me what's going on with this character. What is inside this medallion here? What are these like ropes tied and hanging below his hood? Just incredible. The stitching, these look like repair stitches. To even think of something like that, it seems so necessary for a character like this, but so few artists would actually think to add it. The tears in the cloth, it goes to show he knows I'm not here for the public. Nobody's going to see me. Nobody's going to think bad of this religion because I never leave the castle. I'm like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm going to just be, living in the background, pulling the strings, taking care of rituals and things like that. So I really like Mordecai a lot. Lady Attessa's got some attitude. They do make a lot of the characters in this faction look very pale. I think that was probably on purpose, but I would have personally liked a little more color in their face. But I really like this green and white, for her cloth from the armor. I think that pops really well. And then this shield is the main thing to look at for her. So here on the shield, you have the Arbiter. And, I think this is why I believe that the Sacred Order, or perhaps some of the Sacred Order, worships the Arbiter, or fights on her behalf. So, but what a cool shield. This is the only one I believe that is in kind of full color like this. And what a great job they did with it. I love it. It's like its own art piece. I would like that as a poster or as my screensaver or something like that. I think they did just a fantastic job with that shield. And they gave her some attitude. I love her pose and her stance. And again, another crossbow that's unique to the other champions. Hers has the extra arrows, or the extra bolts in the crossbow. So they did a great job with Lady Attessa. And Romero always pays his debts. Obviously, this is Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. I won't go over him too much, but this cape is badass. It's got this, lion's head on it. Is it Leorius or is it... I wouldn't think it would be, being in this faction, but maybe it's more of like a mount or something like that Tatura Rimehide, which we'll talk about later. But, is in another faction, but something like that. Are they going to be bringing something into this faction later that this represents? Or is this just his like family crest, like you would see in Game of Thrones, something like that. But anyway, Romero, they did a great job on him, even if when you especially look at his portrait here, that is absolutely Jaime Lannister. I'm sure of it. We can't talk about this faction without talking about Sanguinia, the blood streaking down from her eyes, the veil covering her eyes. She's really got this look to her that just reeks like of the deepest part of religion, like the stigmata, things like that. And this blood red armor, I just love it. Or crimson armor. The woman on her chest plate here, and now with the book they're getting a little more detailed. They've really stuck to that theme, and I really like that a lot. They did a great job with her. She's got a great axe, or I believe you would call it that. I don't know what that weapon's called. Forgive me, I'm not a historian. I don't know the names of all of those things. And then here below her arm, if she moves it out of the way for us, I believe it could be something like a scroll, but I think they're vials. Yeah, they look like capped vials of something. I want to know what's in there. But just an amazing job here. I won't go into detail on Juliana, but I always thought she looked really cool. I thought like, she's just gonna walk into battle and start hacking people up. I think they did a great job with her. Talia, I think of all the characters in the game, her hair against the outfit and the skin tone, I think they just knocked that out of the park. The outfit, the color scheme is just really cool. Again, very similar to like Aethel's shoulder pads, but with the added paint and the added color, it looks even cooler. And that big long sword that Cardinal has as well. I just love her. I love that white, the way it pops against the red or maroon, whatever that is just fantastic. So that is Talia. By the way, this sheath is not long enough for this sword. It would go up to about here. I don't know how that would work in reality, but it looks cool on her, so who cares? So that's Talia. All right, we have to bring this up. Frostbringer. She's kind of a cool looking champ. The issue is, if you're gonna design a champion whose name is Frostbringer and is dressed like an Eskimo, they need to do, and you even have like frost coming off the end of her staff and stuff. Something in her kit needs to bring frost. Needs to add freeze. Needs to affect freeze. Needs to do more damage to people under freeze. Something to fit in with the theme of this character. For the most part, I'm not going to talk about skills, but this was clearly a character that was designed to be a frost type character. And then they were like, no, we have too much of that in the game right now. Let's change your kit. All right, now we're getting to the legendaries. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save kind of the best for last. And then I'm also, it won't be in any like specific order, but I'll kind of go from like most plain to coolest. And then on top of that, I'm also going to show where I think another champion in this game was originally meant for the Sacred Order, and specifically meant for one of these two champions to be paired with them. But then at some point, somebody in the game design said, let's move this champion over to another faction. So, spoiler alert, that's going to be coming at the end. So stay tuned for that. So it's hard to believe, but I actually think Cupidus might be the simplest character of this group. I really like his sword. I think they did a fantastic job with that. The writing here on this ribbon, it was probably given to him by Venus. Probably some kind of some ward to, you know, ward off harm to him, or maybe it's like a love letter written on her ribbon, and she ties it. I believe that was something similar was done back in the chivalry days of knights, where the women would give them a ribbon and they'd, you know, probably tie it onto themselves somewhere for safekeeping. What I don't like about this character is they just went a little overboard on the hearts. Like, it's cool that they were, I think, the first Valentine's couple, but they went a little overboard. Specifically these elbow hearts facing like the wrong direction. These elbow hearts really stand out in the wrong way. I think somebody should have edited that down and said, you know, we need to edit this character a little bit, take some of these hearts away. The rest of them all kind of look fine, other than maybe edited down. Like, just take some of them away. I don't care which ones, but take some of them away. You know, his helmet's fine. The, you know, crazy bird feathers flying out are fine. His back looks great. You know, even these hip hearts are fine. The hearts kind of embossed are fine. The belt one I probably would have gotten rid of, and, you know, I don't know. These elbow ones are just egregious. Somebody should have seen this and talked some sense into this. I don't know. It's just screaming at me all the time. Like, it makes no sense as armor. It makes no sense as artwork. It just doesn't make sense to me. So maybe you don't agree with me. If you like the elbow hearts, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. But for me, it just, I don't know, it just makes no sense to me. Let's pop over to Venus. She has a cool look to her. It's really hard to believe she could be somewhere kind of down in, you know, what I would consider like the bottom of this faction. Although if you disagree with me, I wouldn't argue with you. They did a fantastic job with her. She's very cool, very slick, very sexy. She's kind of got these riding pants on. And I believe this type of dress would be designed to be worn on horseback. As well as she's got, you know, the hearts as well. These are at least pointed in the right direction, and they aren't quite so large and egregious. So I never felt on her like, oh, they overdid the hearts. I never felt that way. I love the quilted, you know, kind of headboard-esque back to her collar here. I think that's really cool. I never would have thought I could find a place for that on a champion, but they did here, and I think they did a great job. I think leaving the back bare was a smart idea. I love this giant ribbon. They did just, it looks so real, like you could just reach out and untie it right now. It's so real. Great job with just kind of like using heart shapes and not always just actual hearts. With this, like her bust here, her hair, I think is really unique and cool looking. I think they did a great job with that. She's kind of like the Queen of Hearts. I think I'll go with the best next. I think they kind of went with like traditional England, traditional kind of queen or princess in England type of thing here. She's got kind of the half dress sort of thing here on one hip. Really cool details on her quiver here. I really like how, you know, ornate that is. The back of her outfit, you know, coming down from the crown is really cool. And the spiked crown, I like that a lot. I like to call that kind of the understated crown. It's the one that's not this giant heavy thing that's hanging off of their head, but rather it's one that, you know, is meant for everyday wear, but it's spiked. So it kind of shows that, you know, she's not probably the nicest queen in the world, but if you're going out into battle, you probably shouldn't be. Again, a cool crossbow, and again, pretty pale. You know, I know they're going for the English thing, and especially English royalty was at times at least trying to keep themselves out of the sunlight. The only thing that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense is if she's actually out there fighting in battles. Chances are she was going to be out in the sun. So Errol probably could have come sooner. I have a problem with this color scheme. and I think other people of my age probably will, at least from here in the United States, but I don't think younger people would. And the reason why is, for us, it was McDonald's. It was ketchup and mustard. All the McDonald's back in the day were yellow and red, literally like the colors of ketchup and mustard. If they had another color, it was white, and it was Ronald McDonald. You know, I know now they've gone to like purple and black. It's much hipper and cooler looking than it was back then. It really, that color scheme did not help when it came to recruiting for, you know, people to go work for their fast food joint. So to me, he looks like a McDonald's, like the ambassador of McDonald's. If Ronald McDonald donned armor and went into battle, it would be Errol. But you know, the actual design of this character is pretty cool. The cape is actually badass. I just can't get over the color scheme. I do love his sword too. The way that you can actually see through this opening, and as it moves and as you move, you can see the background behind him through it. I mean, that is an eye to detail that you just can't argue with. So he's fantastic. I like Errol a lot. I hate to say it, but Martyr probably comes next. She has one of the slickest, coolest looks in the game, though. Like, just her figure, the shape, the color scheme, the way that the chainmail plays off of like her kind of religious habit, the spikes on her shoulder pads here. Everything was designed so well with her. A little understated, but in a way that made it actually really cool. A very striking face. Her shield is just the right size for her, I feel like, and it's very cool with this gem that's kind of glowing of like plasma. And then you go to the sword that also has the plasma playing down the blade. I like that a lot. Yeah, everything about Martyr is just kind of slick and cool. I always wanted her. I finally got her, and by the time I got her in the game, I didn't need her much. But because, you know, counterattack's kind of gone out of favor, and I already have 2 other counterattack champions. But she's very cool, very well-designed character. All right, so next we're going to talk about Butcher from The Boys. Or I mean, Constantine the Dayborn. Definitely looks like Butcher from The Boys, which is a great show, by the way. I love his flaming blade, not so much because of the flame on the blade, but one of the coolest swords in the game once you look at it. I don't know why it has a second guard here. Maybe you grab higher up with your other hand so you can swing it better, but these praying hands with chains wrapped around them almost like rosaries are like grabbing the blade like this and holding it in place. That's so cool. I didn't feel like they needed this ribbon of maybe scripture or whatever that is above it, or the guard. I would have rather see the blade come right out of the hands where it's being held, but very cool. And even this guard here at the bottom is really well designed. I like that. It's really unique in this game. He's got, you know, another praying deity of some kind on his shoulder. He's got the stakes and the rope to show you, hey, I'm a vampire hunter. That's what I'm here for. And obviously being tied to Vlad, that makes sense. And then the detail in the leather hanging between his legs here with these, I don't know what these S's are, what they stand for, maybe Sacred Order. But I really like that a lot. His chest plate and chest armor underneath this leather jacket, you know, kind of shows that, hey, I'm not just wandering through the streets at night slaying vampires. I'm here to battle too. So I've got this kind of like official role, and I'd love to know where he got the scar on his forehead, this X. Was that something where they had to cut to get something out? And then this kind of Illuminati type symbol on his back. I know it's not the actual Illuminati, but you know, that's the vibe it gives off. I like that a lot. Really cool. I like that they went with that kind of like triangle shape versus, I believe, the diamond shape for the Illuminati. You know, I do think it's like, okay, he's this like secret order within the sacred order, if that makes sense. Like, he's not one of the everyday soldiers. He's got this special job to do, and his is to fight the things that go bump in the night. So so I like Constantine the Dayborn a lot. And then also, what is this? Purgato Eos. I'm guessing that's Latin, assuming it's an actual language of any kind. I'd love to know what that means. If you know Latin or you know what that means, please post it in the comments. That would be great. But that's Constantine the Dayborn. All right. Archbishop Pinthroy. He is a wacky looking dude. The things that I love about him, I love this, you know, this kind of like a cross, but this medallion that's hanging down below. I love that a lot. I love these fabrics and how official, you know, he actually looks. The same thing as this cross on his back. I love all that. I love this, I don't know, kind of popish guy on the front here in color, and then all these other like bishops or whatever they are, or saints or something on the medallions as you go around his outfit. And I love this staff that's glowing with the halo around that bell. I don't know, you can't design a cooler staff for a guy like this. I think it all fits well. What the hell's up with this hat? It's like a bird cage on top of a hat. Like they're trying to keep the hat from escaping, you know? Like, why do you need that cage? Are those little sculptures or those embossed characters on your head gonna escape? What the heck, dude? What's the deal with that bird cage on your head? I love the look on his face, though. They've really started to get even more into detail on these faces. So that face with some kind of writing coming down on his face, some sort of script, I believe. But he's in the chainmail. I believe this oversized outfit is because he's wearing armor underneath it. That's got to get so hot. That guy's got to just reek when he takes this off at the end of the battle. But, you know, who knows if anybody would smell it. He's an archbishop. So other than the birdcage helmet, I think he's a really, really cool character. The detail in these fabrics are just insane. Archbishop Pinthroy. Holsring, I think. Kind of like Van Helsing, but Holsring. I think he's going to be part of Constantine the Dayborn's sect, you know, that one that fights the things that go bump in the night. He's got the Sacred Order symbol on the back of his leather, which ties him into the group. But he's got these kind of like ghosts and skulls flying out of his body, like maybe he's possessed. Maybe he takes in lost souls or something. Maybe he absorbs the evil in the world to help keep it away from everybody else. There's a lot of maybes with this character. His dagger looks like it's probably for slaying vampires, and this I don't know if you call it an axe or what you call that, where it's almost like a railroad spike bent. That also looks like it could be used for, you know, attacking vampires or something. It also looks like it could be used for like climbing an ice wall, which is probably what those were actually designed for. But anyway, really cool leather. And then let's take a look at his face real quick. His eyes, which you can barely make out, are kind of sunken, phantom-like. He's got these kind of scratches coming down from one of the eyes. His lips are sewn shut. I want to know more about that. I want to know the story behind his lips. Why are they sewn shut? Is it so that he doesn't say something, or maybe whatever his job and his role is takes a vow of silence? Does he know too much, so they sewed his lips shut? Who knows? From here on out, it's really hard to decide what order to put these champions in. I think we have probably a clear first two and second two to bring up. I think Astralon, who for his own reasons really shaped a lot of things in this game. But I do think we can kind of go in order of, fourth, third, and then it's really a tie between the last two. So here's Astralon. He brought in the halo, this cool halo with like some writing in there, some script of some kind that's rotating around his head. Is really, really cool. His bronze armor with script across the chest is fantastic, and get down into, the medallions as you go down here. Like, everything looks so ornate and so cool. His muscles just kind of popping through this armor. And they were smart. They made this armor like his skin. And the fact that he's got, I would say the fact that Astralon has these wings, makes probably he's an angel of some kind. So in that sense, this armor could be his skin. This armor could be part of him. Or it could be something that layers onto his skin very thinly. Something like that. There's some sort of, it's really hard to make out, but some sort of like dragon or snake that comes down across his helmet. But really cool. The fact that they've left some space there. You can actually see through the eye slit and see the background behind it. He's actually got eyes, these glowing eyes that kind of give him some character, even though you can't see much of his face. The wings that come off of his helmet, I like that a lot. These blood red wings are, I don't know, I wish you saw that more in like movies and things like that, because I think that's such a great idea. What made Astralon so cool is that when he came on the scene, he was the first champion, and we were all blown away by this, that flew into the scene at each stage. He'd kind of fly up and land, and he was ready to attack. He used the wings to attack. Like they'd lift him up off the ground, and then he'd dart towards his opponent. And we were just like, oh my gosh, is this bringing something new to the game? And it absolutely did. We ended up with more winged characters. I think Cardinal maybe came out at the same time, but almost nobody had him right away. But Astralon was a fusion, so we got him sooner. So he really helped shape the Sacred Order. Like a lot of the champions that are what we think of the Sacred Order now in the legendary category, I feel were kind of shaped by this wave of champions that came through when Astralon did. So, all right, next is Sir Nick. I am absolutely profoundly in love with whoever came up with the character design for Sir Nick. This could have been done so poorly. This could have been done so bad, so corny, so ugly, but instead we got to see this battle-ready Santa Claus that really looks like a badass. That really looks like he belongs in this game. I don't know if they had like sleepless nights worrying about it until the character design came through, but take a look at this beautiful, beautiful champion here. The chest plate with, the deer with the antlers on it is incredible. The antlers mounted on his back are not only done so well, like that looks legitimately what an antler would look like, right? Other than the fact that they're like perfectly symmetrical, but they're beat up, they're scraped. They have, been locking horns with other reindeer, and they look just fantastic there. And maybe he put them there so that the reindeer are like, yeah, we aren't going to mess with you. We'll do what you say. We'll fly through the night. We'll deliver the presents, His face looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he's confident. The beard, the hair, everything fits Santa. I'm so glad they didn't put a Santa Claus hat on him. So glad he does not have a red hat with a white ball on the end of it. If they did, ruined. It would have been ruined. I wonder, I would love to ask the character designers who made this game, I would love to ask them if they tried that and said, no, let's get rid of it. Or if they just initially from concept said, no hat. This jacket was done so well. The material they chose to do it out of, the fact that they added the leather to it, they made it look battle ready, and the red wasn't like too in your face red. It's a more, you know, not quite maroon, but like closer to that direction. It's not like a jolly red. I think that was really smart, adding the leather along the bottom with the metal studs, adding the leather gloves, but keeping the white fur that goes around, kind of like Frostbringers. Very, very cool. And having that much white makes it that when you're seeing him from the front too, you're not like overwhelmed with red. Adding the metal chest plate here instead of the red, again, maybe that was an original choice, or maybe that was something they decided to go with and went, man, we got way too much red here. He's looking way too much like Jolly Saint Nick. We need to, you know, metal him up. We need to make him look more like a battle-ready Santa Claus. So cool. And then his sword, this blue glow, very similar to Godseekers, and later we'll see Glissia's and Cardinal's. So you can see he is probably like of their level, or close to it at least. Like maybe these are all gods of some kind that kind of lead the sacred order. They're the ones that the other ones kind of like fight and worship with. So I don't know. I have to like give a hand. Right. All right. Good job, guys. Good job not fucking up Sir Nick. I probably would have screwed it up, to be honest. All right. The last two are a toss-up. We have Cardinal and we have Glissia. Cardinal came first, and honestly, I've had him since quite a while, and he's one of my favorite characters in the game. The kind of Astralon-esque gold armor is fantastic, and I love the way they brought it through his face. Like it's coating his face. Is it coating it, or is that his actual skin? Is he made of this gold metal? And then the gold with the blue, I never knew how that would pop so well. Through the like gems that he has on his outfit, all the way to his eyeballs, you know, just glowing like that. And I love the addition of those lines leading down his face. I think that adds so much element here on his cheek, you know, his jawline as well, or his cheekbone line. I think that adds a lot to it. So cool. These, again, kind of deities on his shoulder. The way that the armor goes down, you know, throughout his entire body is really cool. And again, his feet, it's like that metal is coating his entire body, including his feet, or again, he could be made of metal. I love that. His shield, second only to Godseekers, which of course he's on, so he probably gets credit for that too. But these kind of angels reaching up and you know, reaching up to lift or grab this blue symbol here. Forgive me, my voice is starting to go on me here. I've been talking a lot. The wings on it, I love that. Such a cool big shield. His weapon, the sword, we're gonna call it a sword. I can't say for sure that it would qualify as a sword, but it has everything. It has that blue flame, it has the gap inside the weapon, and it's got these kind of angel deities that work as the guard on it. And then his halo on top of his head, again, very similar to Cardinal's, but I mean, very similar to Astralon's, but again, it's golden this time. And then his wings, they're like armored wings. He's got the actual feathers, and then he's got this armor on him, and his wings are so strong that they can lift this golden armor and it doesn't hinder him in battle. Maybe it helps him somehow. Maybe he flies based more instead of physics, maybe more on spirituality, or maybe more on magic, you know. Very, very cool champion. And then lastly, And again, we've got a secret for you at the end after Glissia. But lastly, we have Glissia. The only reason I put her last instead of Cardinal are these wings. Oh my goodness. I'm at a loss for words for these wings. They've got, it's really hard to see them all, but if we stretch up, we can see there's all these swords that are, you know, rung through this metal, I don't know, this metal holder for them. And then the blue shards sticking out. They surround her like a halo, and then you've got the actual halo, and then you've got her headdress that is almost like a halo, and it just radiates out. When you set her at the right angle, they all play together to like create this like layered effect, and I just love that so much. The only thing I don't completely love, she does have that, well, maybe I do, because I guess it's the same thing as Cardinal, only instead of covering the entire body, and they decided to get away from that, like, okay, we did it with Astralon, we did it with Cardinal, we can't just do that with all the champions. They decided to give her the Rhodos and Sifi skin color instead, probably to just complement the blue from the rest of this. So, you know, is she Cardinal's sister? Is she Cardinal's wife? Is she, you know, not related to, but of the same species? You know, who knows? But again, they've got this kind of like metal skin going on. I like that a lot. And then here on her shield, we're going to talk about this in a minute. This is one of the reasons that I question whether or not another champion was in the wrong faction. But before we get there, very cool looking champion. Even the bun on the back of her hair is just cool looking, and it kind of radiates this blue smoke, or this blue power. But yeah, I like her a lot. But again, let's just admire the shield real quick. It is really cool. This lion or this beast on it is very cool. I love these. And let's remember these little stars as well, right? That star shape. So the other champion that we're going to look at that I believe was a part of this faction and was removed for some reason is Tatura Rimehide. So we're going to just go over to High Elves real quick. There he is. Now, take a look at his face. Does that remind you of Cardinal? That same kind of like gold metal coating to the skin? To me, it does. Does this face remind you, minus these horns, does this face remind you of the lion or beast on the shield of Glissia? Like maybe this was originally designed to be her mount, or designed to be her pet of some kind. Personally, I think so. And then look here on his shoulders on this metal, these symbols here. Again, you have those same kind of star patterns on Glissia, and I believe there may be something like that on Cardinal as well. Again, you have with these wings, you got the metal, right, on the wings, and kind of this blue look to it, kind of like what comes off of her wings. So, and then right back to Glissia here, just again to show you on the helmet, this symbol, which is on the shield, which has the beast's helmet here, the beast's head. You know, these symbols were actually on Tatura. And then, oh, here too, there you go. If you will look at these braids coming down off of the side of the head here of Tatura, right? You kind of got the curly hair along the side of Tatura's face. And then you've got these braid things coming down. All right, let's use the magic of editing, and let's go back and take a look at Tatura. Now, you have, here you go. Here's the braids right here. Those are the braids from the shield. So you've got the symbols, you've got the braids, you've got the face. The symbol on the forehead slightly different, but not by much. I mean, I'm sorry, but case closed. Tatura was meant to be, or maybe still is meant to be, the mount or the pet or another god in the realm of Cardinal and Glissia. So if this wasn't meant to be hers or Cardinal's, then I would be completely shocked. So I personally believe Tatura Rimehide was originally supposed to be in the Sacred Order, and somebody in game design said, sorry guys, we can't release another Sacred Order champ. We need one for High Elves. And then they said, well, we don't have any High Elves made. Okay, fine. Let's take him. Let's pull him over to High Elves, and we'll just go with that. So you do have to put the game first. So I do understand that. I do get that. So what did you think of the Sacred Order character design? Please let me know in the comments down below. What did I miss? What did you agree with? Especially Tatura, do you agree with me on that one? That's a big one. And also, please let me know somehow whether or not I'm going down the right path with these character design videos, whether there is an audience out there for this. It doesn't have to be a big audience. I really enjoy doing it, but I want to know, are you guys really liking this? If you are, please subscribe. I think I'm the only person doing anything like this. So it would be good to know, are other people not doing it because nobody wants to see it? Or are other people just not doing it because it's not their cup of tea or it's not their expertise? So please let me know. Please subscribe. I'd appreciate it a lot. Again, I'm the Clam Boss, and this is another Raid Shadow Legends video.
It's just you, me, and the odds. We stuck together, we two peas in a pod. You dealt a bad hand, I'm there seizing the cards. We'll never be separated till we see in the gods. We've been low together, high forever. Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never.